recession hit New Zealand's biggest export earner. 1 in 10 New Zealanders were employed in a tourism-related job. Tourism makes a huge contribution to our economy. The Prime Minister, who is also the Minister of Tourism, must have been aware when he announced yesterday a likely increase to GST and also mining and conservation areas, that there would be repercussions for New Zealand's tourism industry, an industry that he is meant to be listening to and advocating for. Raising GST and mining and conservation areas or national parks are two issues most people I speak to in the tourism sector have grave concerns over. It is one of the features of the tourism industry, especially for inbound tourist operators, that they have to set the itineraries and pricing schedule 2 years in advance, so that the wholesalers overseas are able to publish travel brochures and magazines advertising the tourism products, experiences and costs. Because of this advanced pricing, tourism operators here in New Zealand will be especially hard hit by an increase in GST. Over the year that GST is increased, they'll have to absorb the increases and possibly wave goodbye to very slim profits. The Prime Minister must be aware that the timing of any increase in GST is crucial to minimise the impact on the tourism sector. Already slim margins will disappear and many in the tourism industry will struggle. In order to survive, the quality of the tourist experience may be jeopardised as the operators cut corners to save costs. Some may not be able to provide the experiences that they promised in the brochures, and our reputation as a leading tourist destination may be tarnished. Add to the fact that we will be seen to be more expensive than a destination like Australia, where GST is only 10%, and it is highly likely that we will see a drop in tourism numbers as tourists, especially those long-haul tourists, do the maths and opt for less expensive holidays across the Tasman. New Zealand's competitive edge will be blunted. Instead of a plan to increase wages and create jobs, these proposals to increase GST, GST may in fact jeopardise wages and jobs, especially in the tourism industry. Some in the tourism industry are calling for the government to consider introducing a GST refund scheme for international visitors to help protect their contribution to the economy. International visitors currently contribute about $633 million in GST payments a year. Increasing GST to 15% will increase their contribution by about $14 million annually. Regardless, tax cuts for the rich, paid for by increasing GST for all, is not an economic plan. The second issue the Prime Minister spoke about, which will impact on tourism, is opening up parts of the conservation estate to mining. Although the Prime Minister told us that new mines will be subject to strict environmental tests, the very fact that we are even considering this damages our international reputation and again tarnishes our 100% pure New Zealand brand. None of what was announced yesterday is the death knell of the tourism industry in New Zealand, but there's steadily been an accumulation of policies from this government that are eroding our desirability as an iconic and unspoilt holiday playground. So aside from raising GST and mining conservation areas, the government's position on climate change, a number of assaults, recent assaults on tourists, deaths of tourists on our roads, and also in the adventure tourism industry, amongst other things, mean we need to be careful not to start down a slippery slope. While I support the speedy and comprehensive settlement of treaty settlements, Māori got very little out of the Prime Minister's speech. The Māori Party campaigned hard before the last election on a platform of removing GST from food. It's ironic that they are now part of a government that is making food more expensive, not less expensive, for our people. It is our people that will really feel the effects of an increase in GST. It is our people who will have the greater percentage of their income spent just on putting food in front of their kids, clothes on their backs and a roof over their heads. Economic commentator Bernard Hickey said it is the young and the less well-off who will be hardest hit. Well, that describes Māori. We are younger and we are less well off. If life was hard before, it's going to get harder. Many of us have family living on the other side of the Tasman. Even more will be there this time next year. Education will become more expensive with GST added to the cost of bread for school lunches, school shoes, uniforms and books. School trips will be more expensive because of the cost of petrol will rise. Fewer hardworking Māori will be able to afford the extra educational activities that many others take for granted, and by not being able to afford to participate in these extracurricular activities, the curriculum will just get that much narrower for our people. Then there's the national standards debate. Now let me be clear from the start, there's not a principal or teacher in the country who is opposed to either high standards or giving parents the information they desire about their children's achievement. If there is, they need to leave teaching. Educators' main opposition to the national standards is that there is just no evidence to show they make a difference. Maybe if the Minister just fronted with the evidence, the debate would be over. The achievement expectations and the national standards are almost identical to those that we set at Kaitaia Intermediate School, but we didn't raise achievement simply by stating or setting a standard. We raised achievement by investing in teachers' professional development and learning so that they had the skills and the research-based best practice teaching strategies to help students to achieve those standards. For an example, in 2000, the year before I became the principal there, the the professional development budget was less than $1,000. In 2001, we raised that to $26,000. We need to invest in teachers and give them the skills, the attitudes, the knowledge that will help them to raise achievement. There will be teachers out there who are great at teaching many things, but will be weaker at others. The best evidence synthesis says that professional development in specific areas raises achievement a lot faster and a lot further than just generic professional development. So if the Minister is serious about raising achievement, she needs to implement a system where the specific teaching needs of teachers are identified and specific professional development is given to those teachers to meet those particular needs. For example, we can talk about raising literacy, but in literacy there's oral literacy, reading and writing. And just in writing alone, there's 4 or 5 different types of styles of writing. If we want to raise achievement in any one of those styles, those writing styles, teachers need to have the specific professional development in those styles, in that particular style. Raising achievement is a complex, technical, practitioner-specific art that cannot simply be encapsulated into 5 words, national standards, plain English reports. To pretend that lifting achievement is as simple as repeating a political mantra is an insult to teachers and principals nationwide, and is probably much of the cause of the resistance to the standards. Throughout my educational career, and now as I visit schools as a politician, I see principals and teachers who throw their hearts and souls into making kids learn. But the disdain that has been shown them by denying them an opportunity to contribute to the formation of these standards before imposing them on schools flies in the face of all best practice change management strategies. With respect, if the Minister tried to work with those in the education sector, she may not be experiencing quite the resistance she is now. Just as Russell Bishop's highly praised Te Kotahitanga project looks to improve educational outcomes through improving relationships, the Minister too may well be better able to achieve educational outcomes by improving her relationships with the educational sector. As I've said before in this House, research shows that there are few things a teacher can do that will make students dumber. Almost every strategy works to one degree or another. So when the government says in 12 months' time that achievement has risen, it will be difficult to tell if it was because of national standards or in spite of national standards. A question I have for the Minister is, will she also invest $60 million on even the top 10% of strategies that are known to be most effective at raising achievement just as she has invested $60 million on national standards which have no research evidence to show they